I looked up the meaning of revelation, and it's the revelation of truth. I don't know if that's a Webster's dictionary. That's what I found. When John was writing a lot of this, he had actually been put in jail. Well, not in jail, but he had been banished, I guess, or he had made Romans mad and made a lot of the Jews mad for what he was teaching, and they had banished him to an island. And the things that he was writing to the different churches, the 7 churches, he talked to each one of them talked to each one of the churches differently. And, that's, I didn't understand why, the Lord revealed himself in different ways to different churches. I didn't understand that. And I started studying on it, and I think it's, God kind of talks with each one of us differently. He don't talk to me the same way that he talks to Trish or to one of y'all, that he reveals things differently to them than he does to me, and to y'all than he does to other people. How good is it that we got a Lord that knows us down to the individual to where he can speak with us. And whenever we get into difficulties, how nice is that? I know when I've been at some of my lowest points, one of the things that I've always had the blessing to come back to was coming to church when I was little, and getting saved. But in the first verse, and it's Revelations 2:8-9. Verse number 8 is, "And unto the angel of the church in Samaria," I think. I'm gonna say it's Smyrna. The church in Smyrna, right? These things saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. Smyrna was a church that was in a well-off area. It was a Rome. This is what I wrote down. Smyrna was north of Ephesus. Smyrna was rich and a loyal city to Rome, which, that of course means it had a lot of the pagan believers and a lot of the, I could never find out how old the city was, kind of whenever this was being written. But you probably, or I guess that a lot of the pagan Roman influence had kind of crept into the Jewish synagogues and into a lot of the things that was going on in the city. And I apologize for being so kind of scattered here. There's on my notes, I've already talked about some of the stuff I've already written down.
I thought it was interesting that Smyrna still does exist. It's not called Smyrna, but it's a city in Turkey. So it wasn't one of those cities that was destroyed, or like last week we learned about Ephesus. Okay, that totally got destroyed and is different. But Smyrna, we can go visit it today.
That's something that I was kind of gonna get to the, out of the 7 cities, or out of the 7 churches, I should say, which church would you want your church to be like? That was something that I'd kind of looked into and looked at. In the verse, it talks about first and last, and dead and is alive. And I think that's real important. The first and last kind of speaks to your, to his spirit, or to his eternal spirit that will be with us forever. The dead and is alive kind of speaks to his body, and the resurrection that he gave me, and he did, and it's all from him. And in the next verse, verse 9, it says, I know thy works and thy tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blaspheming of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Jesus acknowledged that he knew how hard the church had been working. And he's acknowledging their tribulation, and a lot of the Jews and Rome had kind of got together and were persecuting. A lot of the pagans were persecuting Jews, and a lot of the Jews were passing it down the line and persecuting the Christians. There's 2 churches, and again I'm scattered, but there's 2 churches that me personally, when I was looking at them, that you would want to kind of be like Smyrna and Philadelphia. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but they're the only 2 churches that John didn't reprimand, I guess, or Jesus didn't reprimand. There's so much in, and how easy do I have it, and I get to come up in front of people, and I get nervous and ramble and try to teach things I don't know anything about, that these people were going through actual punishment and torture, and but yet they still was able to stand up and preach Jesus to people. I wrote down, we must be willing to stand for what is truth and right, and at the cost of everything. And I don't know that I can do that in that situation. A lot of things, if somebody tells me that this carpet's blue, I can stand on that and say, no, it's not. Somebody tells me, you're not saved, I can stand on that and say, yes, I am. But I can't stand, because I don't read the Bible enough. I don't know enough to, when somebody asks me a question about something of the Bible, or I don't know enough to a lot of times stand and speak with boldness, and I shouldn't be that way. I've had people ask me questions before at work and stuff like that, and me being able to kind of dodge around the question that they were asking. And whether it was right or not, I don't know, but I don't know that I was bet my everything on my answers I was given. You know, one day, your body and the Lord's Spirit will come together. And that's when Jesus comes to take us home. I think that, you know, again, when I'm going right, should be going left, and when I'm going left, I probably should be going right. But one day, if I'm supposed to go right, I will go right. And I'll make good decisions, and that's a lot of the what we have in this lesson is being steadfast in what you know, and being able to weather the storm and be with speak boldly and with confidence on what we're taught with Jesus speaking to us. In the teacher's book, I don't know if it's in the regular book, but in verse number 9, it talks about each verse differently. And it says, in one part here, it says, God judges a person on his or her faith in Christ or lack thereof, not one's heritage, nationality, race, or gender. I don't know where that's at in our lesson today, as far as the again how good it is that God don't look at us as a group or as a nation. It looks at us as an individual. Anything that y'all have to add, please do. I hope y'all studied the lesson and can add something or take away something that I'm saying.
Okay, I'll just mention Smyrna, and I think it's fascinating that it's the Greek word for myrrh, which is the same spice that they used to anoint Jesus' body with. But when you read about myrrh, the only way you get myrrh is you have to crush it. It's like a tree, and literally just have to destroy it. And here's God's church that's being crushed and destroyed by persecution. All from outside forces. Think about Ephesus last week. That was all inside. They lost their first love. They were doing great things. This church, it's all outside forces. And they didn't lose their first love, because when you're being persecuted, it just makes you stronger. It makes you, when everything's great, how easy it is for us to let down our guard and take for granted what Jesus has done for them, or for me, for us. But this church did not take that for granted and faced constant persecution. And you think about that synagogue of Satan. Okay, as a Jewish synagogue who already, this is what, 97 years after Christ is risen from the dead. This is a synagogue that rejected their Messiah and now persecuting Christians. That's the synagogue of Satan. That's pretty ouch.
That's the again, that's hardship. The things that again that I've been through are nothing compared to what these people had to go through. And again, I appreciate any comments and things that, because that's what makes the lesson.
So these Jews, same God, Christians and Jews, same God. They're supposed to have godly thoughts and that thing. Look how far they went backwards and crucified Christians. It's just amazing to me that they lost all aspects of being a Jew, and they just took it way beyond. That's what we do sometimes. We take it way beyond. We forget we're Christians and just talk down or whatever else to somebody else. I never did think about it till I read that verse of synagogue of Satan, and it certainly was, because Satan was in those Jewish people, driving them on.
In a lot of ways, they're still today.
Mm-hmm.
Still today.
But they're not crucifying us and putting us in jail and stuff like that.
Exactly. A lot of your, again, a lot of the things that they dealt with and what we deal with are hard things, hardships, but it's nowhere near what they were dealing with. They were dealing with death and imprisonment and imprisonment in prisons that they put you there and forget about you. And Romans were cruel people, and it's not.
Well, you were in pretty bad shape. You didn't say you weren't worshiping Caesar. You were in bad shape.
Well, there's so much. Again, the paganness and everything had crept. A lot of the people had, wanting power and money and stuff of that nature had crept into the Roman world and tried to straddle the post, I guess, or straddle the line, and they probably had in good favor that people could persecute Christians because they're doing it, so I can maybe get a little bit better in their eyes by doing this. And the church was steadfast. Verse 10 is there's a lot in this, and I wrote down like 3 pages of stuff that I got out of verse 10, and kind of condensed it down, which it probably won't make any sense, but Revelations 2, chapter 2, verse 10, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, that ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. There's in suffering, there's a great reward. And that's so crazy. There's a great reason to suffer. Jesus is letting them know that he and the Father know all about their suffering. Stay faithful to the end. Great rewards will be theirs. That's real easy to say, and really, to me, it's, I don't know when I've been at a low point and had a hard time in my life that I say thanks. I appreciate this. The suffering that know what I was doing. I was getting on my knees and praying and, asking for help but I don't know that I was saying thanks. Which that's, again, that's the weakness in my body, and in my mind that, I didn't have my eyes on the, what I was really there for, and that's, the crown of life, which is just talking about at the end of the verse there. Again, we know that the people in Smyrna were put into prisons because of their faith. It's hard to be a Christian in the world today. A lot of times you can say the wrong thing to the right person and you're persecuted. A lot of you can be outed and canceled I don't know that a lot of people are put in jail today because of their Christianity or their faith.
Not in America, but
Oh, yeah, definitely in the world. Definitely in the world. I'm definitely in that situation, speaking of I guess what I'm having to deal with. And, do we have the faith to stand when everybody else is giving up? When everybody else is thrown in the towel? A lot of times if there's people around me, and I could be the last one fighting. But a lot of times, the hardest thing for me is to stand alone, and when everybody else is saying the carpet's blue, it's hard for me to stand and say, it's red. I don't know that as a human body, and again, people, when this was going on, they were standing, saying God's words and speaking His truth to death, to their death. There's a lot of letters and stuff of that nature that are records, I should say letters, where people were giving up their families, their homes, and everything, and going to the Colosseum and being put to death. And as they're dying, preaching God's word. There's records of this. And am I that strong? And I'm not. But a lot when you know the truth, and you know what God has for you, He'll give you that strength. If we're able to stand, there's a crown of life with their name on it, that Jesus made just for me and just for y'all. No matter what you're facing, don't fear. God don't give us fear, but gave us power and love to overcome it. The Bible teaches us not to fear. Fear has nothing to do with God. If we have God, and again, there's times in my life that I walked into situations which I should have had fear and better thought, or better more brains, I guess. And there's times that I've had fear in my in my body that, when I shouldn't have. I put, my sinful body, allows fear and doubt, and sins to come into my life, and, we shouldn't have that. But again, that's, if we're able to be bold and to be, keep Christ as our first and light in our life, that we're able to not fall as much, and not sin as much. And again, I don't know where this is or where this falls. But if the devil isn't attacking the church, why not? You know, a lot of the churches that, or the 5 of the churches that John was writing to, he was reprimanding them, and a lot of that can, if the church is not being persecuted and attacked, is the devil not worrying about that church anymore because I've got that one. It's time to move on to one that I don't have. We need to be a threat to the devil, to be attacked. The devil, with his control and power on this earth, it's a constant battle that we wage against him, and that comes down to the individual, or in my case it does. Jesus is the sword, we're the soldiers, and we need to fight, hang on, and reap the rewards of the victory that Jesus will give us, and also has gave us. And again, there's a verse 10. There's a lot there. And again, this whole lesson is just 4 verses. But again, there's just a lot here.
When you think about this country, think about there's anti-Semitic, anti-Asian, homophobic, all these phobias, not against Christians. Christians are fair game. You can hate Christians, you can persecute Christians, in the workforce or whatever, but all the other groups, people will come to, transgenders, whatever, they'll come to your defense. But if you stand up as a Christian,
you're gonna get it. Just like that teacher got fired or suspended or whatever else for speaking his beliefs and saying that he wasn't going along with what the school required him to do. And it was yes or no with the school. And he didn't do it. I don't know what happened to him. Do y'all know what happened to the guy that he had trouble with transgender, and that he had to call him something, and it wasn't, girl or boy or whatever else, and it was about bathroom uses and everything else. And he just said that my Bible doesn't teach that. He just stood up for that, and he got ridiculed and put down by the board, and suspended, and just, that's the devil working that way to push that agenda on that way and punish anybody that speaks out against it.
And, a lot of if he just got reprimanded, you know, a lot of it is the outward stuff that, where the, groups or whatever they're considered, that come for that guy, or for anybody that speaks out against their power. You know, again, they'll take your house and everything.
Well, it just shows you just how Satan would love us to be focused on pronouns, like that's important. That's what got him in trouble. When instead of actually teaching children, teaching, you know, their students actually something useful, we're going to learn 4 years of pronouns. Boy, that'll take you far in life. It really is crazy.
Division is and you look at the part of the government that is preaching division and preaching, I shouldn't say preaching, implementing division in our country.
Yeah, forcing.
Yeah. There's, again, do we have the steadfast fortitude to stand against that? I'm hard-headed enough that I do on some things, but if there's any doubt in me, you know, I give up pretty easily. And that's, you know, I don't have the boldness and the fortitude in my spirit to stand a lot of times and to be there for God when He needs me. In verse number 11, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. And there's a lot here too. You know, the second death, you know, we should study the Bible and learn to be closer to the will of God, and not be deceived by false doctrine or teachings. There's a battle for the souls of men, and we have God's army to help us fight. We should be willing to give up everything to serve God. And I circled serve God. You know, and what is that? You know, is serving God, going out with a sign on the road, if that's the individual spirit that God's speaking with you, that is serving God. If serving God is coming and just coming to church and coming through the doors, and that's what God's speaking with you, that's you know, that's what's so beautiful about Jesus, is it goes down to the individual. The main thing there is just try to stay in tune with what God is speaking in your life, and try to stand for it, and do what the Spirit is asking you to do. It talks about the second death, and I started, you know, what's the first death? What I read, and this may be wrong, in what I studied, and I hope that I can get some feedback on this. The first death is physical. The second death is spiritual and eternal. that kind of thing, I don't, you know, and I know what it's saying, but it's hard for me to wrap my head around this. You know, the first death being physical, which is just dying. And the second death is our judgment. And how wonderful it is to know that I'm saved and I can how what the picture will be whenever the second death happens.
Well, you won't see it. Your second death, you won't have it. The second death is going to hell. That's the death that they have. You will never have a second death. You will have one death and rise and go.
So you don't think that at any point you'll see Jesus and
You'll
he'll
see
say,
Jesus.
come in?
Yeah, but you ain't gonna die. You ain't gonna
Oh,
die.
yeah, yeah.
You never,
Yeah.
you'll never have a second death. You'll die one time. Dead right there.
Yeah,
And then that's it. But those people that turn their backs on God, they'll have a second death. And there they will suffer forever.
that's, again, there's a lot in this verse also, but to me, this verse is a little more straightforward as far as what it's saying. And it talks about he that hath an ear. You know, who is he that hath an ear? Is that anyone that'll listen? Is that me?
He that hath the ear, let him hear. Let him hear. Let him be able to hear the word of God. Everybody's got ears. Some people turn it off. You know, they ain't gonna listen to God, about God or anything else. I've had that happen to me plenty of times. But you know what? I've had that happen to me, and then somebody else comes up there and asks me, have you ever heard about God? And they say, yeah. I mean, no, I haven't. I haven't never heard that. You get saved by somebody else after I've been doing it, saying it to them. I must not have been saying it right.
Well, you might have been saying it right, but that planted a seed. Or, you know, you hear a lot of people say that what you're doing right now may not see fruit. It may be down the road that it happens, or you know, I don't. I hope at any point in my life, because I know that at points that I've drugged people down, and I hope at some point there's been one time that maybe I helped somebody out and you know, tried to help them and lead them to Christ. And we like to see the rewards of it, and again, see that person saved, or you know, just to see the reward and pat myself on the back and say, all right, you know, me and the Lord did that together, and that happened. But the main thing is, again, not the reward on this earth, is reward in that second death.
You know, Robbie, if the verse 11, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. That is at the end of every one of these letters. to every church. And that's kind of a stark, to me, that is a stark, one, this is to churches, okay? So he that hath an ear, let him hear. I mean, that means there are people sitting in churches that aren't hearing. Right?
Definitely.
It means you're supposed to be open to hearing. I mean, back in Romans, it says that faith comes through hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. So we have to be open to hearing. And everybody's not always open to hearing. And so, you know, these are letters to churches that Jesus has told Paul and John to write. And so churches that you see some that are doing wonderful. This church in particular is not wealthy at all, but there's a lot of fruit obviously coming from it. And they're struggling, they're being persecuted, like you say. You know, Satan messes with, he tries to throw monkey wrenches at people that are doing what he wants them to do, against what Satan wants and what God wants. And so, you know, it's just a reminder, you know, you come to churches and all it's about. It's not those that are just sitting in the pews. It's your relationship. Do you know Jesus? Are you trying? And are you going beyond just, I'm saved and I'm good? I'm trying to live a life that honors him, and I'm trying to live a life. You know, I believe God said when he's going to change me and make me more like Jesus, I'm open to that. And that's hard sometimes. But if I really love him, and I really want to be more like him, I'm going to have to go through some hard stuff.
And that's something I've written down. You know, every Christian has a great promise to receive, and it's something that you have to receive it. You have to be open to it, and you have to be with an ear to hear it and be open to it, to accept it into your life and try to live by it. Everlasting life, that's our promise. I don't have a lot more. There's a lot more coming in the book, but I appreciate everything that everybody said. This was a hard lesson for me to do, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with y'all and stand up here, even though that there's much, much better people that can be doing this than I. Stephen or Stacy, would you like to lead us in a prayer?
Lord, thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for keeping us all safe, getting down here. And thank you for Robbie for teaching the lesson this morning. Just be with us to help us receive what was said this morning. Be with the man that stands at 11 o'clock, and be the one that's lost loved ones, Lord, and the ones that's sick. Amen.